We live in an anxious age, more connected than ever, and somehow more divided, more comfortable than any generation in history, and somehow more restless. We are searching, almost everywhere, for things that one small community worked out 500 years ago and has been quietly living ever since. You do not have to be Sikh to learn from this. Here's what the world can learn from the Sikhs. Start with equality. Not as a slogan, but as a practice. 5 centuries ago, when caste and class and gender decided the entire shape of a human life, the Sikh gurus said something radical. There is one light in every person. The king and the beggar are equal. The man and the woman are equal. And then they did the hardest thing of all. They built it into daily life. In every Sikh temple, there's a free kitchen, the Langar, where anyone of any background sits on the same floor, at the same level, and eats the same simple meal. A billionaire and a homeless stranger, shoulder to shoulder. It is one of the most quietly revolutionary ideas humanity has ever had. Equality you can taste. The world still argues about equality. The Sikhs just set a place at the table and served it. Next, service. The Sikhs have a word, Seva, selfless service. And the key word is selfless. You do not serve to be seen, or thanked, or rewarded. You serve because giving is itself a form of worship. This is why, across the world, when a flood hits, when an earthquake strikes, when a city goes into lockdown, it is so often Sikhs who arrive first, setting up kitchens, feeding thousands of strangers, and then quietly leaving, asking for nothing. In a culture obsessed with personal brand and visible success, here's a community that has mastered the lost art of doing good without needing the world to watch. Then there is the idea that may be the most needed of all. The Sikhs call it Sarbat, Bhala, the welfare of all. Not all Sikhs, not all of one tribe or nation or faith, all of humanity. In their daily prayer, Sikhs ask for the well-being of every living being on earth. And they have lived it at the highest cost. One of their gurus gave his own life, not to defend his own religion, but to defend the right of people of a completely different faith to practice theirs. Stop and think about how rare that is, to die for someone else's freedom to believe differently from you. In a world that increasingly sorts everyone into us and them, the Sikhs left a different instruction. There is no them. There is only us. But do not mistake gentleness for weakness. The Sikhs hold 2 things together that most of us keep apart. They call it being a saint and a soldier. Soft enough to feel another person's pain. Strong enough to stand against it. The Sikh tradition is fierce about justice, but only ever in defense of the weak, never in service of the powerful. It is a courage with a conscience, the willingness to stand up, to put your body between the bully and the victim, even when it costs you everything. The world has no shortage of strength and no shortage of kindness. What it lacks is people who carry both at once. And through all of it runs a spirit the Sikhs call Chardi Kala. It has no perfect translation. The closest is something like relentless, rising optimism. Not a naive belief that everything is fine. The Sikhs, of all people, know how dark life can get. They have survived genocide and exile and centuries of persecution. Chardi Kala is the choice to keep the spirit high anyway. To meet hardship without bitterness and loss without despair. To believe, even in the worst of it, that you are never truly walking alone. In an age of anxiety and burnout and quiet despair, that may be the most valuable inheritance of all. There is more. The dignity of honest work and the duty to share what you earn. The refusal to hide who you are. in a turban worn with pride in a world that pressures everyone to blend in, a reverence for learning and for the equality of all paths to the truth. But if you look closely, underneath every one of these values, there is a single quiet engine that powers them all, a daily practice of remembrance. The Sikhs call it Simran, the discipline of returning the mind again and again to something larger than yourself. Because here is the secret. You cannot pour out service and courage and optimism and love for all from an empty, anxious, scattered mind. The outer life of a Sikh is extraordinary precisely because of the inner life that feeds it. The stillness comes first. Everything else grows from there. And that, in the end, is the most practical lesson of all. These are not abstract ideals reserved for saints. They begin with something small enough for anyone to start. A few minutes of stillness, a daily return to the center, a mind gathered instead of scattered. It is the reason a simple app called Simran Lock exists. To take that ancient daily practice and quietly fit it into a modern life. To turn the most ordinary moment of your day, reaching for your phone, into a small return to stillness. Because the world does not just need to admire these values from a distance. It needs more people actually living them. And that always starts on the inside. You do not have to be Sikh to begin. You only have to be willing to remember. Simran Lock. Turn every unlock into Simran. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa. Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.